That is Black Monday is approaching, not Black Friday. Black Monday is approaching, and what moves I'm predicting to have happen. And I want you to react to what I have here because I think that this could be potentially the most active we've ever seen a Black Monday with potential coaching changes, GM changes, the entire nine across the board. Because just I think that there's a lot of guys who think their jobs are potentially safe, or maybe they don't know that they're potentially safe, and they know that they're on the chopping block as the season ends. And I want to first start that I have two GMs and I have 10 head coaches that I think that we could possibly see turnovers with this offseason.
All right.
I want to start with Jonathan Gannon and the Arizona Cardinals, where he has put on an all-time bad clinic of what it looks like to be an NFL head coach. I know that there are some rumblings that he's safe. There are the fans, the season ticket holders, the people online constantly calling for his job, and the fact that they are not even going to be able to sell season tickets. People are threatening to stop buying their season tickets because the games are getting cheaper than what they pay for their season tickets the entire year. At the end of the day, there is some pressure that the ownership in Arizona has to feel with how this season has went and how the fans feel about Jonathan Gannon. Jonathan Gannon has done nothing exceptional. We've gone over it a million times. He can't beat anybody. He can't beat anybody in interdivision. So what's the point of keeping around? It's probably time that he gets gone. And he's the first guy that I have on my list here today.
There's rumblings that his job is safe.
If that happens, I mean, there will be a big podcast that me and you'll be that will be had. So, but yeah, as of right now, that's what I'm hearing.
That is the most outrageous rumbling I've ever heard, because they have taken the largest step back that they possibly could have from last season to this season. You would have never thought that the same guy was coaching this version of the Arizona Cardinals as he did last year. At least last year, that team, week in and week out, was fighting. They showed some heart. They were battling in these games. This version of the Arizona Cardinals, and albeit they've had injuries more so than what seems like a lot of teams, not even remotely close to the amount of heart or fight that team showed last year. So, on top of benching their quarterback.
We've gone over it a million times.
So
we hate I'm with you. Well, if it happens, we'll have a very deep conversation about it. But Gannon's first on my list. Next, I have John Harbaugh. I don't think it matters what happens. If they win a Super Bowl, maybe we'll have a conversation about what's possibility. I don't think, though, that that's a possibility. I think that I've said it before, his voice has grown stale, and I think it's time to just make a change in Baltimore, honestly. So that's another one. The next one on my list here is Todd Bowles. I think he's coaching for his life this weekend against the Carolina Panthers.
He's so done.
If he can't get the job done this week against the Carolina Panthers and sneak into the playoffs, I think that they'll make a change. I think that if he does make the playoffs, and even if they lose first round, I think he buys himself a little bit more time.
Dude, they have to move on from him. He stinks.
I'm with you. That's where I'm at. Next, Mike Tomlin. I know that it's been reported that it would have to be like a mutual parting. I could see after let's just hypothetically say that they don't make the playoffs this weekend. I mean, obviously this week 18 game pretty much signs, seals, and delivers that. Or if they're another early first round exit and they don't win a game, I could see them sitting there and being like, all right, you can't get it done. Let's just mutually part ways. So I think Mike Tomlin's another one in the Steelers job. Pete Carroll is done after the season. I mean, that's as good as gone. Kevin Stefanski, another one who has just evaded all the hate in the world. It's insane to me. He is an awful head coach. Every single year they continue to put out mediocre performances, mediocre seasons, and stack it on top of each other. I feel like at some point the Browns are going to have to make a change.
I want to chime in on that one.
Go ahead.
I think he is a better head coach than you think, but I do think
What has he done?
I just don't think he has had anything to work with at the quarterback position. But I want to say this:
Isn't he the quarterback guru?
He was good when they had Baker.
They signed Deshaun Watson, and it was a disaster.
You don't put any blame. No, hold on. Let me finish. Let me
blame on Stefanski for that.
No, I do. But okay. I think he's a better head coach than the last handful of years without Baker.
So
Mayfield
my question for you,
but I do think it's time for them to move on.
Time out. My question for you is, what has been more impressive for the Cleveland Browns over the past 4 or 5 years? Has it been their defense or their offense?
Their defense.
Okay,
but their defense has better players.
Has Jim Schwartz done a better job with what he's been given on the defensive side of the football to make them be relevant, for that 111 win season, than Stefanski has been able to do on offense? Because Stefanski is an offensive head coach. He is coined as a quarterback guy, and his offenses suck year after year.
Yeah, but I think the Browns have had better players on the defensive side of the ball to work with than the Browns have had on the offensive side.
Is that not why you hire an offensive-minded head coach to be able to potentially come over some of those deficiencies that you have on offense?
There's only so many that you can come over.
Okay.
Those quarterbacks have been brutal.
Okay, we just started this podcast out talking about how Kyle Shanahan's able to bring it together.
Okay, but we're not comparing Stefanski to the best head coach in the NFL.
I'm just saying, if you aren't able to get anything out of anybody, you're a bad head coach. So I'm out on Stefanski, and I think he's somebody that could be potentially gone after the season when it ends.
I'm not disagreeing with you that he should be fired. I think that he should, because I think there is a certain point where you have to draw a line in the sand with how bad that this Browns team has been, and the fact that he's been the head coach of this horrible of a franchise for X amount of years. I think it is time to move on.
Yes, and it's a lot of it falls on him. This dog keeps farting, and it stinks in here. I literally thought she pooped. That's why I just turned around. She's dead asleep, just farting. The next one I have on this list is an easy one. Raheem Morris, he's gone. I mean, there's really not much more to say. I mean, the Falcons stink. He's not the guy. They're in a very interesting situation, obviously, as we know. I think he's gone. And now I have these three where it's question marks, honestly. What the hell is that?
Sorry. That's my phone.
There's three guys on this list now that I have some questions about. I have Mike McDaniels, who has seemed to been able to evade the heat in Miami, but it's kind of these guys don't really take him serious. There's been constant reports that guys are late, these guys don't respect him, this, that, and the third. Why would you keep a guy like that around is where I'm really confused about, and they haven't really been that successful. So I think that even though reports are that he's safe, it wouldn't be shocking to me if he's no longer the head coach of the Miami Dolphins, and I think he immediately becomes one of the most intriguing offensive coordinator hires across the NFL.
See, I think they should fire him. I'm in line with you there, but I almost see a scenario where he becomes the Kevin Stefanski and they end up just keeping him around for a handful of more years because they're a bad run organization.
It would be interesting, but I do think that there's a possibility that that's true. The next one, I have Sean McDermott. We alluded to it a little bit in the Bills episode. If the Bills aren't able to get it done this year, and you were never able to beat the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes and get to the Super Bowl, and the 1 year that the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes aren't in the playoffs, you're still not able to get over the hump and get to the Super Bowl, he's not the head coach then for you. You have your quarterback. You need to bring somebody else in to try to figure out a way to get this team over the hump. So I think that I really do. I think that if they don't win a Super Bowl, I think that there could be a change made at head coach for the Bills.
I think if they don't make it to the Super Bowl, they move on from him.
Okay, that's fair. The next one and the final one, I have Andy Reid. Andy Reid, I think the run's over. I think there's been constant talks that he wants to retire over the last few years. I think the three-peat possibility was the only reason that he came back. And then after after they lost the possibility of a three-peat, I think that they were all so hungry to try to prove everyone wrong and get back to the Super Bowl and win another Super Bowl that it delayed the retirement of some people like a Travis Kelce and an Andy Reid, where now they miss the playoffs. Mahomes has a torn ACL. He's probably going to miss majority of next year, if not all of next year, despite of what he wants to do. I think it could potentially be like the end of the road for the Andy Reid era, where he either retires or they like mutually decide to like part ways. It's based on what the Chiefs have put out over the last 3 seasons, despite winning a Super Bowl, despite going to a Super Bowl and losing. I think that this is kind of the end cap of this era of like the Kansas City Chiefs organization and who Andy Reid is to them.
Yeah. Yeah, we've talked about this a handful of times. I think that this offseason we're getting a Travis Kelce retirement and a Andy Reid retirement. And it stinks for them that they had to end their season on this, but they kind of brought it on themselves per se, because they knew what
The
they were
wheels fell
working with.
off.
Yeah, they knew the type of talent that was inside that locker room, and they lied to themselves if they thought that they could make it back with what
And
they were working with.
that's 8-9 years of deep runs on a
Yeah.
consistent basis, and the wheels finally fell off of everybody. And this is what happens when you do it for this long. And
Yeah.
that's really all there is to it. So I do feel like I do feel as if that list is extremely realistic. Like, do I think all of that happens? Probably not. Like, if there's any that I pick, like I think like Tomlin could potentially stay, and I think Gannon could potentially stay, and I think McDaniels could potentially stay, and McDermott. Like, I don't think all of it will happen, but I wouldn't be shocked if it's this active at all. And because I feel like that it's truly a time where it feels like the tides are due for a change at the head coaching position, just based on like the staleness that could potentially be going on. And now I have some solutions, because who are some potential names that you see? And I feel like a lot of the names, go ahead.
I have one other name that I think you left off. I think Zach Taylor could potentially be gone too.
I don't think so. I really don't.
You
I
think
don't
they're
know
going to hold on
why.
to him?
I don't know why. I hope so. I really hope that they do.
I feel like if there's some other, I feel like he's not out of place on that list. Like, I think that it wouldn't surprise me if any of these guys were not the head coach of the current team that they're at. And then if you said Zach Taylor wasn't going to be the head coach of the Bengals next year, wouldn't shock me at all.
I hope. I genuinely hope so, because I think he stinks. But again, like, they're going to use the excuse like, oh, like Joe Burrow missed majority of the season, like blah blah blah. Like, that's what they do every single time. So
Yeah, that's true. They
I could
are
see a
in a
GM change. I could see a potential GM change there personally, more than a head coach. But
I want to talk about the Joe Burrow situation another day, but just something to.
yeah, write it down. Um, Again, I wanted to give some solutions to the problems here, because I do feel as if like some of the head coaching lists that I've seen, where it's like Lou Anarumo, like I saw Arthur Smith, like it's just like bad lists. I came up with a realistic list, I think, in my opinion, and I'm gonna rip them off and see what you think. Automatically off the list of that I just gave you that people have got fired, I think Tomlin and Harbaugh automatically find new homes no matter what. I think that like they don't take any time off. I think they automatically get hired at another NFL team, no problem at all.
I could see. I don't know why, but I could just see Mike Tomlin being the Las Vegas Raiders coach.
Yeah, for sure. I could see that as well. But I think both of those guys, I want Harbaugh to be the Arizona Cardinals head coach. I think those guys need a complete culture shock and change, and those two guys bring that type of energy to an organization automatically.
Yeah, those are both two guys that have won too many football games in the NFL and are young enough that it's still worth bringing them in
Oh, for sure.
to coach an NFL team.
Absolutely. So another one that I have on this list is Clayton Adams, the offensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys, who's the architect for the Cardinals' success in 2024. He automatically goes to Dallas and makes that offense a high-powered offense. 2 years ago, when he was with the Arizona Cardinals, they were a top 10 offense by DVOA with passing and rushing. He pretty much unlocked that team, and the second he walked out the door, you saw a lot of the inefficiencies that weren't able to be overcome by Drew
Yeah.
Petzing. He automatically goes to Dallas, and Javonte Williams looks like a brand new guy, and
Yep.
the passing offense looks incredible. I've always been really impressed with Clayton Adams. He's not like a name that like everybody would probably think of like off rip, but I don't see why there shouldn't be a reason why you wouldn't want to bring a guy who's able to accentuate an offense so well, and what is a possibility where you get a guy who's younger who can come in where he's not known as a quarterback guru per se, but who knows what's possible with somebody like him. Another guy that I have on my list is Vance Joseph, who played a massive part in transforming the Denver Broncos over the last few seasons. And he has just put out an elite defensive product year over year. And you just have to give the guy a ton of credit.
Yeah, I think both of those guys. I think that with the way that kind of the NFL has gone, like everybody's trying to find like who's going to be the next like young guy. Even though I don't think it's lost in terms of bringing in sometimes an older guy with experience. I think that that was what the Las Vegas Raiders mindset was as, oh, we can bring in this older guy that's got a bunch of winning experience in the NFL and in college and whatnot, and he can kind of change it. And I just think it one, their roster construction was poor, and two, I think Pete Carroll is probably just a little bit too old. He's what, like fucking 75. So
He's
I think that
96.
I think you got to find like kind of a middle ground with some of these hires where it's like, yeah, you don't want to go like too old and too much experience to the point where it's like too much to be a head coach. But yeah, I think those are two interesting names for sure. And
I'm not done
the
yet.
Cowboys offense looked great.
I'm not done
So
yet. The next one that I have on my list is Clint Kubiak, who has been ascending. He had a really great year with the New Orleans Saints when they stunk. Then he goes to the Seattle Seahawks, and they have one of the best offenses in the entire NFL. And you said it, a guy from the Shanahan tree who's a young potential dog that could be upcoming. He's that guy who like fits that mold. So I have Clint Kubiak on this list as well.
I think there was discussions last year of Kubiak potentially being a head coach, but I just don't think it was. I think it was probably a year or two away.
Yeah, a little one too early. Next one I have on my list here. I don't care that he just got resigned by Notre Dame. I personally think it's only a matter of time. He's the CEO type. I think Marcus Freeman is bound to be an NFL head coach at some point. And I think that doesn't matter what Notre Dame does. At a point, I could just see him being an NFL guy personally.
I am actually shocked that he did not take the Giants job. Regardless of how bad the Giants are, coaching in New York, being in that market, making that jump from college to the NFL, we talk about it all the time.
Superstar.
Yeah, we talk about it all the time, how exclusive these jobs are. I'm really shocked he did not take the Giants job if it was offered and if he got to that point in discussions and interviews with them. I know that he was heavily being considered and they talked with him, but I'm shocked he didn't accept it. But I think you're 100% right. He's going to be an NFL head coach someday. He fits into the CEO mold, like you said, of like he's more of like he's more buttoned up, and I don't know, he's like more of a buttoned up and like straight edge version of like Sirianni and Dan Campbell. Like Sirianni's just a dickhead, and Dan Campbell's a like I'll beat the shit out of you. But Marcus Freeman's more of like the politician version
No.
of a head
Yeah.
coach.
I think he'd be good too. I do.
I think he would too.
Next one I have here on my list, I have Joe Brady. Although like the Bill, I think that like what everybody fails to like really see with like this Bills situation is like they've had two offensive coordinators who've been able to put out real high level offenses that like they have had to fire because they try to save face and figure something out. I think it's only a matter of time that Joe Brady becomes a head coach in the NFL. And so I think I have him on my list too. Another guy that I have on my list is Cliff Kingsbury. Despite what people remember about Cliff Kingsbury with the Arizona Cardinals, he was decent and he won games and he cares a ton. And he's a guy who is quarterback friendly. If you have a good potential young quarterback that you're going to be bringing in, Cliff Kingsbury has shown that he's able to get the most out of those guys. Is it long term? He hasn't proven that yet, but what he's been able to do with like Kyler early, what he's been able to do with Jaden Daniels early last year, you saw like the heights of that. The ceiling is just so high where it's like, okay, you can win. Like there was a season where the Cardinals won 11 games and had an early exit. The Commanders won went to the NFC Championship last year. That's a guy that I think that like underratedly doesn't have enough respect of what he could potentially be as a head coach in the NFL. He doesn't want to go back to college, clearly, to be a coordinator. He took that job of being a quarterback coach for USC because I felt like it was low stakes. And the second that he had the opportunity to go back into the NFL, he took that opportunity. And I feel like it's finally time for him that he could potentially get a head job as well.
Yeah, that was a name that we talked about over last season. Where is he going to jump ship at Washington and end up being a head coach this upcoming year? Turns out he stuck around, but I do think there is probably interest there for him to give it another go as a head coach. So I could absolutely see that.
The last one on the list. He's 30 years old. He's very young. He is going to. This is probably one too early, but this guy is going to be a head coach in the NFL at some point in his career. He's the Broncos passing game coordinator, and it's hard to deny what he's been able to do, and that's Davis Webb. He is like the hot buzz name like across the NFL, like in totality, where it's like he is a guy who's like clearly on everyone's radar. I think it's a little too early, but this is one of those where we can bookmark and like in like 2-3 years when he becomes a head coach, I can be like, oh, I was all over that. So like I do like Davis Webb and what he's been able to accomplish so far in his career. I think he's really good at what he does, and he's a guy who's quarterback friendly. He played at Richmond. He was a good quarterback. He played in the NFL for a little bit and just automatically knew that he was going to be one of those guru guys. He's learning under Sean Payton, which I think helps a ton. And the Broncos have been a really good football team and been able to win games over the last couple of years, and he is obviously a part of that. So he's somebody that I would even like to have as potential culture play as well.
Yeah, I was curious if there was going to be somebody from this Broncos offensive coaching tree per se that would be getting any conversations, because I think we both respect and recognize that Sean Payton's a really good coach. I know that's why I'm saying like those are probably guys from that offensive staff in Denver that they're going to have to start figuring out replacements for in the upcoming years, because if they continue to play good football on both sides of the ball, that's just the way that it goes. Is you're going to lose coaches. Other teams are going to take chances on the guys that you have on your coaching staff. And if you ask me, I think that poaching somebody from a Sean Payton coaching staff is probably not a bad thing at all. So
no, not at all.
I think those are great. I thought of this when you said Cliff Kingsbury, but I could absolutely see him coaching in New York.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great, honestly.
I could see him working with a young quarterback over at the Giants, and just absolutely thriving in New York City.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah,
he'll have models on the sidelines for the games.
Yeah, he will. It'll be like a Jake Paul fight.
Yeah, 100%. Those are the head coaches. I have 2 GMs. There's more that I could probably think of off the top of my head, but these two have just been so bad. And I think it's time for them to move on. The first one I have is Chris Ballard for the Indianapolis Colts. We've gone over countless times the amount of quarterbacks that he has brought in
Yeah.
over the past like
Yeah.
decade, where it's just been like a complete miss, and the drafts haven't looked great as well. Now you have a situation where you trade 2 first-round picks, you trade Adonai Mitchell for Sauce Gardner. You go 1-7 to close out the season. Obviously, they had some quarterback injuries. You missed the playoffs, and now you don't have first-round picks for the next 2 years. And on top of that, you lost Adonai Mitchell, who immediately goes to New York and shows really high-end flashes. And it's like, wow, what an absolute bad trade by Chris Ballard. And I think that it's time. I think it's been time for him to get out of Indianapolis. I think that this was the nail in the coffin to lose that amount of draft capital for somebody like Sauce Gardner, who I like him, but to blow that on a corner when your quarterback position was still in limbo, in my opinion, no matter what happened this offseason with Daniel Jones. And then obviously he breaks his leg and it's like worst case Ontario, or no, he tears his Achilles. And that's worst case Ontario. And it's like, okay, now you're ultra screwed. So I think that the Colts ultimately move on and fire Chris Ballard, which is, it's time. It's been time.
Even if the Colts were to make the playoffs and be a first round exit, I still think that them making that trade was ridiculous with the way that their quarterback situation is set up. Like, that's a franchise where they need to keep they were not in a spot where they were going to win a Super Bowl. Yes, they played really well the first half of the season, but an injury, you were one injury away from screwing the next 5 years of your team from a quarterback perspective, and it happened. So they're in a very tough spot for the next couple of years, and that's not a guy that I want making the decision as to who the next quarterback.
Brother, we didn't even talk about like the Anthony Richardson miss. Like, it's just been, which was a top 5 clip. Like, it's been bad. Like,
so bad.
And to swing and miss on somebody like Anthony Richardson, and then to give up all this draft capital when you're so much in question. All-time bad job by Chris Ballard. It's time for them to move on from him. Carly Ursa needs to get him up out of there.
And the thing is he's done a decent job putting together a team outside of the quarterback position. But when you can't get that right, you time in and time again, it's like you eventually got to move on.
Absolutely. Sorry, Andrew just sent me a crazy tweet. The last GM that I have on my list here is Terry Fontenot with the Atlanta Falcons. Not much to talk about here. He's done an all-time bad job. The Kirk Cousins, Michael Penix situation has been all-time bad. He gives up a first-round pick, which is going to be a top 10 pick this year, to the Rams for an edge rusher who is a rotational piece for them. The mismanagement of resources when you're taking like a tight end at 3 overall, when like Jamar Chase is sitting on the board, or some of the other, like Penei Sewell, like some of the other high-end talents that you could have used in the trenches or somewhere else. You take a tight end, and then again, like you take a running back in the top 10. Bijan's really good, but like, does it make sense to do that? Probably not. You take a wide receiver in the top 10. Does it make sense to do that? Is he good? Yes. Does it make sense to do that? Probably not. And just continue to make this team look really bad. And in a division where the teams are not great, they really played well below expectation this season, which I forget where you had them. I thought that this is where they would be at just because of who's in charge. And I think that the GM and the head coach are both out of Atlanta this year. And whoever takes that job, they're going to have to be patient, because this is a complete and total rebuild at this point, with Penix tearing his ACL and Kirk Cousins being in the back 9 of his career.
I think I actually had Atlanta finishing in 3rd. I think I had the Panthers and the Bucks both ahead of them.
Yeah. Me and you thought the same then.
But yeah, the future for Atlanta is in such an awkward spot, and that's not a guy that again, another guy that I don't trust to maximize the talent and put together a good enough roster moving forward for Atlanta. There's a guy that I just want to. I don't think he's not on the hot seat by any means, but a guy that I'm keeping my eye out on for the next couple years, and I think that's Adam Peters at the Washington Commanders. I'm keeping an eye out on him because I understand that they were good last year and they had quarterback issues this year, but I think Jaden Daniels makes up for a lot of bad.
But you hit on Jaden Daniels. I mean, that's all there is to it. That saves your job that might save his job for a decade.
It might if he stays healthy. If he stays healthy, yes.
Even if he's not, bro, if he blows his knee out tomorrow and never plays football again, just the sheer fact that he hit on Jaden Daniels and in year one they made the NFC Championship, I think he has a job for the next decade. I do.
That's crazy. That's even if he doesn't do a single thing for the next 5 years.
Yes. I was just saying he hit.
I don't know, dude.
Jaden Daniels.
He did, and I absolutely commend him for that. And that was a great season. But look at the team around Jaden Daniels that they had, and then look at the team that they put out on the field this year.
I'm with you.
We were all over this team regressing, and I understand that the injury to Jaden Daniels played 100% in that. But aside from Jaden Daniels, that team was not a playoff team if you put them on the roster this year.
Yeah, regardless. Yeah. I'm with you 1,000,000% on that. I just think he got the most important position right. And that's 90% of the battle.
It is, but I'm keeping an eye out for the next coming years. He's not even remotely near a hot seat, nor do I think he should be fired because of because of hitting on Jaden Daniels. But I think that's a guy that I'm watching. I'm keeping an eye out on him. I just spit it. Good girl, we're getting paper as a passion. Collect the stacks.